right, Chad, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you here.
Matt, thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is awesome. It's not every day that I get to sit down with an NBA coach with kind of your background and experience. So I'm just thankful to get this time and then get to spend 2 days with you at the shift next week.
It might even be more rare that you're sitting down with an unemployed one.
in between roles.
Fair enough.
It's like, darn it, Memphis. Come on. And it was awesome because your background is really interesting. Obviously, I know a lot about you through our mutual friend Peter, and I can't wait to get to know you better. But your experience with the Spurs back in the day, and now with Memphis, you've been with multiple teams. You kind of see multiple environments, and obviously you're coaching at the highest level possible. So I have no doubt in my mind you'll get picked up pretty quick and go get back to impacting lives and stuff like that. But I'm really curious to pick your brain and hear some stories from you and learn from you. Because when you're coaching the best of the best, and obviously you being one of the top coaches, I mean, there's a lot to be learned. So I'm gonna try to pull some of those nuggets out of your head today for sure.
Hopefully I won't disappoint.
So, one thing that sticks out to me, and Peter and I've talked about this a lot, is, your experience with the Spurs and I don't know, just what people think of that organization is like great leadership, team like gets along together. I mean, they're just high performers, right? That's what people think about when they think about the Spurs. At least I do. What in your mind was some of the driving factors that led to like people to think that led to like having great teams and great runs? And what was it about the players and maybe the coaches that led to some of that?
Well, the things that immediately come to mind is great leadership, incredible cooperation, and high character people. There's probably other things that can go on the list, but those things come quickly to mind. And, from a leadership level, when you always hear about things happening from the top down, I thought that San Antonio was, and still is, a perfect, living, breathing, example of that. Starting with the owner of the team, it's always been an incredible situation. I always believed that Peter Holt, as the primary owner of the team, is arguably one of the best owners in professional sports, not just in the NBA. You go down to the next, ring of leadership with, of course, Coach Greg Popovich and the general manager, R.C. Buford, and their longstanding, friendship and relationship and loyalty to each other, trust of each other, selfless, egoless ability to work for each other and have the ultimate best interests of the entire organization, and even down to the entire fan base in the city of San Antonio, always at heart, and in the best interest of every player and every employee. They've just been incredible. And you go back to and character, and that's the number one value that they've never compromised. And every person that they select to be part of that organization, whether you're a draft player, hired assistant coach, a secretary, a janitor, a security guard, a parking attendant, it doesn't matter. A free agent signing, a trade, every level, the preeminent value is character, and they're going to always have done their due diligence to find out who somebody is before bringing them into the mix. And what you end up with is an environment of people that, again, are that operate selflessly, keep their egos in the proper place. I mean, obviously egos exist, but they never get in the way. People ultimately, operate with a spirit of love for each other, and an environment of intentionally selected people who, as top That's what they call Greg Popovich for anybody that's not familiar with him. I'll refer to him as Pop if he comes up again. But, Pop always talks about wanting to have people that have gotten over themselves, that want to be part of something bigger than themselves. And that's a mantra, and it's a living, breathing, value there that has never wavered. And, the results obviously speak for themselves.
Absolutely. Do you think, because the topic of ego, right? We all carry one around, and some are more, I don't know, in your face than others, I guess. Do you believe that can ego, like approaching life with like setting the ego aside or switching it to like, no, it's about the team, not myself. Can that be taught, or is that just through an experience thing? And then like, if you're building a team, like you go find those people who've been through it.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, Matt. I think the main thing, that my experience there taught me was if you do start with high character people and you've done your due diligence in terms of figuring out who people are, that is the biggest thing that tends to take care of how egos are kept in check. I also think, though, that if you go from your premier talent in your organization, whether you want to talk about an extreme talent like the head coach in my environment, the talent of Greg Popovich himself, or if you want to go to players, in my time there, of course, I got to spend 9 years with Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker. But, you take those guys as the premier talents, and it really, in my days there, started expressly with Tim Duncan. And you go to his character and his ability to never allow his ego, to get in the way of anything, and always be, one of the best teammates that you could have ever imagined, in the history of the sport, and be one of the most amazing human beings. And that's not to leave out Manu at all. Manu's identical,
Yes.
Tony Parker. When those were your premier talents, they were the ones that were, I don't like to use the word culture too much because I think it's overused and abused and, it's everywhere. But if you're going to use culture for people to identify with that, they were the ones that set that. And it ultimately was because of who they were and their character.
Yeah, I think that's such a huge piece because, especially in like business world, and I think it's true of other teams, is when you don't have that diligence, to your point, of finding like the right people, even though it may take longer, once you get that mix, it's amazing like what can actually happen.
Right.
So when you're out there coaching, like, I don't know, first of all, like, what do you like about it? Like, why do you get so like fired up about it? Like, what do you like about the coaching side of things?
Well, for all of us, it starts with, a love of the game, that we've all had from different points in our life and through different experiences, whatever, levels we reached or what have you, but it all is born in the love of the sport and the game.
Yes.
But then when you take it to the coaching level, of course, when your playing talent runs out, and mine was very short and ran out very quickly and early in life, you love the game so much that you still want to be involved in the game. And, and I got involved right away in terms of, youth level coaching at boys and girls clubs. But getting back to your question, the competitive, nature in all of us is something that's, kind of a drug of sorts. Living and dying every day, the highs and lows, the adrenaline.
Yeah.
But being a part again of something bigger than you and trying to accomplish a goal together with a group of people. And, the ride is a long, journey every season that, can last, 7 or 8 months, this family of people. And, like I said, just living and dying, every day with the results. it just becomes something that gets in your blood. And then being able to be a person who has the opportunity and ultimately the privilege to hopefully help people, be successful, become better than maybe they ever thought they could become, achieve more for themselves and their families. That's really rewarding.
Yeah, that's awesome. I thought you were going to say the charter flights and the hotel rooms, but I'm sure that's part of it too.
Oh, it's actually not. It's funny because that is how some people tend to perceive it. There's a, undeniably a glamorous element to it. But if it's your real life and it's your day in and day out, reality, it's actually, that stuff, matters nothing to you, and it's actually exhausting. It's a grind.
True. That's true. Yeah, it could be the fanciest hotel, right? But when you get tired of a hotel room, you get tired of a hotel room.
Yeah, that's right. When you're, changing pillows and mattresses every night and you're waking up with a sore back and, whatever, it's not always fun.
That's a good point. How, I'll have to convince you to do a longer podcast with me because I got so many questions just to dive into. One thing that I think we hear about in pro sports a lot is like how to deal with pressure, right? Which pressure is, it can have that negative effect on emotions, right? So I feel some sort of pressure from the outside, fans, just the moment, whatever. My emotions get the best of me. I don't react the way, right? Now, some performers like the Tim Duncans of the world, they just hit the shots. It's amazing, right? But they've worked kind of through that over time. How have you seen like maybe the Duncans, or like how do you guys coach people around like how to approach those like in air quotes like pressure situations to remain like emotionally just kind of calm? And how have you seen like the best do it, or how do you coach people to do it? Because I think it's something I deal with all the time, that every athlete, every business person, every mom, every dad, like we're all dealing with these massive like emotional swings and pressures that come.
Right. I think that's a great question, Matt. And, it's a real element, of course, and different human beings, as you already alluded to, respond, differently. But, some of the things that you try to do, whether you're doing it in a small, quiet voice or in a whisper as an assistant coach in a certain player's ear, or, in the moments, days between games or whatever you want to talk about. I've always tried to help establish perspective, and where, your mindset in terms of the perspective, what you're dealing with is the ultimate, key to your success. For example, is it pressure to have to make, game-winning free throws? Well, it could be. Or is it pressure if, you're homeless on the street looking for your next meal? And you could use a lot of examples like that. If you open your eyes and you get outside the realm of the sport or the arena and look at the reality of the world and what real pressure is around us. And there's a million examples we could talk all day about. But in my time, especially in San Antonio, and going back to the powerful leader that Greg Popovich is, he spent excessive amount of time always trying to feed our teams different perspectives of real life things that got them away from the thought of the sport, the thought of tonight's game, the playoff series. It's game 7, it's do or die, whatever the situation, a player not playing well, being in a shooting slump for 5 games, a team being on a 3-game losing streak, where he refused to ever allow the group, of us coaches and players to dwell on that much or feel sorry for ourselves, and always providing everything, whether it was, through movies or documentaries or talking about a current world issue, whether it be politics or something, in another country, constantly feeding our groups every year, things that would demand you to have a different perspective, and or the right perspective, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And that also included, different team outings, whether we were doing things out in the community. San Antonio is a big military community, and we would always go and see, wounded warriors and spend time with them in their rehab, situations when they come back with their arms and legs blown off and, and severe burns and things of that sort. Trips to museums on the road, stopping in and taking a tour through the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
The African American, history of, in Washington, D.C. The National Civil Rights Museum here in Memphis. There's a million examples that I can give you, but all of them were intended to broaden people's, life experiences and ultimately keep their perspective in the right place.
Yes. I love that aspect of it. And, real world situation yesterday, there was a shooting at a school here in Colorado again. And we just found out this morning, one kid, 18 years old, actually died from it. And so to your point, perspective is like, I'm sitting here worried about making a sale or, all these other worries that are coming up. And like this young man just lost his life hours ago. I love that focus on perspective. I think that's huge. That's what we all need, frankly, more of.
A family lost a son and a brother and a grandson, and a cousin. You're right.
Yeah, that's amazing. At the shift, we're focusing on our 4 B's, right? So it's our brain, so kind of our mindset. It's our body, so we're talking nutrition, fitness, doing a workout as part of it too, which I'm super excited about. And then we've got our business, right, which is how do we grow our business? How do we grow our career? How do we kind of position ourselves as leaders? And then the final one is the bond piece, like so the power of relationships, things like that. So as you hear those kind of 4, right, our brain, our body, our business, and bond, is there one that like sticks out to you that maybe something you're focused on now of like kind of growing or something you've struggled with in the past? And can you talk a little bit about kind of what sticks out and maybe how you had to work through something or why you're focused on it?
Well, I'm just in a place right now where, I have a dream of hopefully one day becoming a head coach of one of these 30 NBA teams. And I've been, grinding hard at my career. I just finished my 23rd year in the NBA, and that's not speaking of, 4 years as a Division I, college assistant coach and, 3 years as a high school assistant coach and all those different things. So it's been a long road. And, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to be able to, put myself in a position and be fortunate enough to get identified ultimately and selected, hopefully sooner than later for an opportunity like that. And, there's days that it can be a struggle mentally because you feel like you're not going to get your shot. And I'm working on myself to try to prevent myself from, the pollution, just the mental and spiritual pollution of comparison. And when I look around, and for me in my industry, whether it's written in print media or spoken on, sports shows, national radio shows on XM radio or in social media, of course. And I see some of my peers, getting these opportunities, as simple as whether it's actually getting the jobs or getting these interviews to be in front of the decision makers.
Yeah.
I don't always handle that well.
Yeah.
And, and so I'm working on myself with that part. But anyway, hopefully that answers your question in terms of a couple things that, that I'm confronting and things that I'm trying to pursue. That's where I'm at.
That's interesting. And so when you work through that, because I do it too, right? I will see another speaker, or I'll see some like high performance coach or like whatever, like working with a pro athlete, and I'm like, man, I should be working with that pro athlete or like whatever, right? Or I should be giving that speech. Like I'm also quick. I think it's a natural thing, like comparing, and then it's like, am I good enough, right? Am I am I enough to like have that? And why are they overlooking me? I think we all go to that place. Is there like one thing in particular you do? Is it back to perspective of like, well, wait a minute, perspective
Yeah.
again?
Yeah, it really is. And so I try to catch myself quickly, and I usually, I'm successful with it. And I give myself, self a quick, slap across the face. And I remember that, I've got to enjoy where I'm at and enjoy the moment I'm in, and continue to intentionally choose to stay in a space of gratitude for the life that I have, for the career that I have, for the opportunity that I have in the present place that I am, and truly stay grounded in a real belief that, I'm always going to be in the place I'm supposed to be.
Yes.
And to enjoy it for what it's worth, and when I recapture those, those thoughts, they are core beliefs of mine, and it ends up being a pretty quick, mental adjustment for me.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's huge. I always describe, well, I've got different thoughts. I talk about, mental toughness in my business. That's what I'm here to build. And it's not something like where you never show any weakness, right? Because I think that has a connotation: show no weakness, show no fear. And I'm like, no, the furthest thing is from the truth. All we're trying to do is identify that fear or lack of belief or like whatever is getting in your way. The quicker you identify it, you're able to close the time gap to get back on track. That's all that's mental toughness. So like we're just closing the time gap. That's it.
Right.
And that's awesome to hear. Like you're so intentional and like aware of like, oh, that here it is again. Because I have that every day. It's like, here it is again. And now what am I going to do with it? And the quicker I do something with it, the better off I am.
Right.
That's awesome. Well, hey, I'm going to, I could ask like 50 more questions, but I'm not going to, Chad. I'm not going to. I'm gonna let you go so you can move on with your day and all that stuff. And I'm just so very thankful. And when you're here in Denver for the 15th and 16th of May, we're gonna have a blast and be able to dig more into your mindset and your heart and just your background and wisdom, and just so excited to shake your hand and meet you in person and have you at this event.
Well, I feel the same way, Matt. I'm looking forward to meeting you. I feel, honored to be someone you guys wanted to be part of your experience, and I'm really looking forward to being up there next week.
Absolutely. It'll be a blast, and have a great rest of your day. And thanks again for your time.
You bet, Matt.
All right. We'll see you soon.
Thanks.